Hi, this is Nick from NOISIA with our plugin Vision 4X, and I'm going to show you how to use this plugin to manage the energy in your sides. Here I have a very simple sound coming out of Serum. This is just a couple of detuned saw waves, the basis for a resound potentially. I am going to take out some of the bass from the sides here, because here we are in our analyzer. This is set to sides mode, so now it's analyzing the side signal. Let's turn off the EQ for a second. So this is without EQ. And you can see that there's this big spike of bass at 40 Hertz showing up in the side signal. And we can listen to it as well. This is because we're spreading these saws across the stereo spectrum, and because they're detuning, they create different frequencies that are going out into the side signal. And we actually don't really want this low end to be there. We kind of want the side signal to not have that low end energy, because if it does, it means that our stereo channel has big differences in energy in the left and right channel potentially. And also if you're mastering for vinyl, you don't want the sub to be too stereo because it can jump the needle out of the groove. What would we do? We would obviously high pass the sides here. So let's turn off listen for a second. And we're still looking at the sides, but now we're hearing the stereo channel. So here we are with Pro Q with the little sides high pass. All right, so let's first set this to the normal Pro Q mode, because I want to show you something about linear phase that actually quite surprised me. So here we are with the EQ on. Now look at how much this is spiking. This is going above 0. This is a setting in here where you can set a headroom for the waveform. So you can set headroom so that you can see above 0, which I find very handy. So you see now this is going above 0 when I'm using the high pass. When it's off, it's not going above 0. This is a side signal though. Keep that in mind. So now we're going back to stereo, seeing what it looks like. We can see that it's also going over 0. What about with this high pass? Do you see that there's way more going into the red with this high pass than without? And it also even creates a little bit of DC offset almost, because you can see more of the top of the wave is going over and less of the bottom of the wave. So let's go back to the side signal again with EQ. And now let's set this EQ to linear phase and check it out. Wow, that almost looks the same as without. You see how the high note looks almost identical? Obviously, the side signal is not a signal that you will actually hear, because it's the difference between left and right. But it's crazy how clearly you can see here the difference between linear phase EQ and normal phase EQ. So let's look at our stereo channel now that we have the linear phase EQ on it. And turn it off. That is very, very similar. This is a great way to really know what's going on in your side signal, and when you're EQing, using EQ, normal phase or linear phase, it's a great way to keep in check these frequencies. And I had no idea that the difference was that drastic. I was quite surprised, and now we obviously have a more well-managed side signal that we can mix with a lot easier. So let's go back to the sides one more time and listen to it. So that, if I change this back now to 0 latency, there is a difference in the sound if you just listen. But it's a very small difference, but the waveform is very different. So this plugin allows you to really understand that and understand what's going on in your waveforms. And so now we can also, for example, look at what will happen if we boost a little bit of the mid signal. So let's go into here for a second. And so we've high passed the side, so we have no more sub happening in the side, but how about the mid signal? So we have obviously a big spike here at the beginning, because that is where all the saw waves are in phase when the sound starts, before they start going out of phase. So So it's obviously not easy to just EQ in this kind of content here. So you would need to do a dynamic EQ potentially. We could set this to be dynamic. Now this is a quick fix solution, but you can already tell that we are getting back some of this signal. We're getting back some of this bass into the mid, which means that the bass is evenly distributed across left and right channel.